So we've been learning all about ecosystems, and in every single ecosystem, they're all impacted by something that looks like this. Say it with me. The sun. The sun affects the temperature in any ecosystem. But in the desert ecosystem, which will be our focus today, the desert ecosystem is the most affected by the sun. And actually, more than 1/3 of the Earth's surface is covered in deserts. Say that with me. 1/3 of the Earth's surface is covered in deserts. We don't have any deserts here in Illinois, but that's a lot of Earth that's covered by deserts. The deserts have less than 10%, or less than 10 inches of rain per year. Show me rain with your fingers. We're going to do a little TPR. Now show me just a little bit of rain. Now show me how much rain we get in Illinois. Show me how much rain's in the desert. Just a little bit of rain each year. In the desert, the temperature is affected by the sun. During the day, the temperature is very hot. Woo, say hot with me. Hot. And then in the night, when the sun goes away, it gets very cold. It gets hot and cold in the desert because it has different temperatures. And so the sun is going to affect everything that's in the desert. The first thing that's affected by the sun are, hold on, let me check my color, the non-living or abiotic creatures. Everybody say non-living. Non-living. I remember that some of the teams were sorting things by living and non-living. In the desert, there's lots of land, and the land during the day is very hot. And the land at nighttime is very cold. Show me what cold looks like. What does cold sound like? I heard some people making the sound of cold. So we've got, the desert has some mountains. We've got some just little hills. We've got sand and soil. I'm going to draw some rocks in here. And I'm going to write the word soil. Say it with me. Soil. And I'm also going to write the word sand. Say it with me. Sand. Soil and sand. What do we have more of in Illinois? Soil or sand? Soil. But in the desert ecosystem, there is more sand. Oh, that's the difference between Illinois and the desert. We're going to have some different mountains, and some of these things you might have seen pictures of when we did our observation chart. Those are all non-living things. Non-living things are things that do not have life to them. They cannot breathe, and they're just there to support us, and they're part of the ecosystem. Everybody say non-living. Non-living. Everybody say abiotic. Abiotic. And so out of those non-living things grows our next category. The next category is called producers. Everybody say it with me. Producers. Producers are various things that make their own food. Something that makes its own food. Also could be something that uses photosynthesis. Makes own food and uses photosynthesis. What might be a producer? I'm going to start drawing a producer, and when you know what it is, I want you to whisper what you think this is. It's very tall. It's actually over 40 feet tall.
Saguaro cactus.
Oh, thank you for whispering. I've got a big saguaro cactus. And the saguaro cactus has little holes in it that we'll talk about in a little bit. It also has flowers. The saguaro cactus produces its own food using a process called photosynthesis. Everybody say it with me. Photosynthesis. Check out these flowers I put on top. We've got all sorts of lines going up and down the cactus. And what else is on a cactus? Maybe we don't want to touch those.
Spikes.
Some different spikes on the cactus, and those would hurt. The saguaro cactus is over 40 feet tall, and it holds tons of water. I'm going to put this little symbol here for 40 feet. Do you think all producers are really big like the saguaro cactus? No. Some producers are very small, like the tiny prickly pear cactus. Everybody say it with me. Prickly pear. Prickly pear. The prickly pear cactus is very small, but it is also a producer because it makes its own food using photosynthesis. Everybody say producer with me. Producer. And what do producers do? They make their own food using photosynthesis. We've got some producers over here. I'm also going to draw a close-up of a prickly pear cactus. Remember I showed you that they're small, but over here I'm going to draw a close-up, and you'll see why in a minute. I got to put all of its spikes on there. And it's got some flowers on the top, and we'll talk about how the producers use those different things in just a bit. We have our producers in the desert. We do have some cactuses in Illinois, but producers make their own food using photosynthesis. I want you to turn and talk to the people at your table. What are some of the producers we have in Illinois close to our house? What makes it?
Oak trees.
Oak trees.
Prickly pear.
Pear trees.
Algae. Asparagus.
It's pretty specific.
When I say the signal word, we're going to bring our attention back together. Ecosystems. Ecosystems. Living and non-living together in the same place. All right. Next, we're going to talk about our primary consumers. Say it with me. Primary consumers. Primary consumers are herbivores. Herbivores, and their bodies do not lose water. Their bodies don't lose water. Do our bodies lose water? When it's a really hot day, what happens to us? Oh, we get so sweaty and our bodies lose water because we are not primary consumers. Primary consumers are animals like the black-tailed jackrabbit. The black-tailed jackrabbit is a primary consumer because it's an herbivore. Herbivores eat plants. Herbivores eat producers. So we've got the black-tailed jackrabbit, and they've got really big features. What's the biggest feature you see on my black-tailed jackrabbit? What's it have? Really big ears. It has large ears. And the large ears do help it here, but the large ears help it in the desert because the sun is so hot. And primary consumers don't lose water, they don't sweat. So their large ears help to keep them cool. Their large ears help keep them cool. Everybody show me some large ears, like you're the black-tailed jackrabbit. Okay, now, if you were a hot black-tailed jackrabbit, you would move your ears down to stay cool, and you would put your ears up to warm up. The large ears of the black-tailed jackrabbit. If they get very hot, they also have to go and live underground because it's so hot in the desert, they might stay out of the sun. They live underground in a place called a burrow. There's other creatures that are primary consumers too. They've got big body parts that help them. So they've got a big body part. I'm going to show you another one. Yeah. So the kangaroo rat has very large legs that help it jump very far. Okay, I'm going to have everybody stand up. We're going to pretend to be kangaroo rats. And we're going to have little arms and big, powerful legs. And we can jump up and down. The kangaroo rat. Okay, so our primary consumers are herbivores, and their bodies do not lose water, and they've got a big exaggerated body part that helps keep them cool or helps them to hunt or helps them escape from other animals that are trying to hunt them. We're going to turn and talk to the people at our table about some of the primary consumers that we have here in Illinois. An animal that has a big fluffy body part that helps it navigate and escape other animals.
Like I guess this too. So I'm more concerned about hidden talents and animal turbulence. We live along the creek, so those are just the two animals.
They come right here.
Yeah. Now the primary consumers eat the producers. But what eats the primary consumers? It's the secondary consumers. Say it with me. Secondary consumers. Secondary consumers eat other animals. We said that a primary consumer is called an herbivore because it eats plants. What is that word, that academic word for an animal that eats another animal? Carnivore. Say it with me. Carnivore. So they are carnivorous creatures. These secondary consumers live in the same desert ecosystem, and they're going to eat our primary consumers. So there might be a creature like the kit fox. The kit fox also has an exaggerated feature. It has the same exaggerated feature as the jackrabbit. Show me the exaggerated feature that the jackrabbit and the kit fox share. They've got the big ears. Okay, the kit fox likes to eat the jackrabbit, and the jackrabbit likes to eat the plants, leaves, and cactuses. The kit fox obtains its moisture by eating other animals. So body obtains moisture from its prey. There are some animals like the kit fox that hunt during the day, and then other animals hunt at nighttime. I'm going to draw this little animal that flies at night, and let's see if you could whisper your prediction about what that animal is. This is a bat. I heard some people say it, and bats are nocturnal secondary consumers. There's also other secondary consumers, like the roadrunner. Roadrunners are very fast. Show me how fast your feet could move under your table. Ooh, you guys are almost as fast as the roadrunner. There's also animals that fly in the sky, but they're much bigger than the bat. Still nocturnal. They've got large eyes as their exaggerated feature. This one is the great horned owl. Everybody say great horned owl.
Great horned owl.
The great horned owl has some features that help it catch its prey. It's got really sharp talons. Claws is a word we sometimes use, but the word, the academic word that scientists use is talons. Everybody say talons. Talons. Also has a very strong beak. The great horned owl has strong beak and talons that help it eat other animals, and B, carnivorous. Everybody say secondary consumers.
Secondary consumers.
Eat other animals.
Eat other animals.
There's other ones like lizards that live in the desert. There's hawks that live in the desert. All sorts of creatures that are secondary consumers. Say hawk.
Hawk.
Show me what a hawk flies like with your arms. There's also little secondary consumers that crawl on the ground in that non-living sand. I'm going to draw one. Let's see if you could use your prediction skills to see what I'm drawing.
Scorpion.
Scorpion. Say it with me. Scorpion.
Scorpion.
We talked about how the secondary consumers eat the primary consumers, but some secondary consumers also rely on the producers. I told you that I was going to blow up one of the prickly pear cactuses so you could see it. Because inside the holes in the prickly pear cactus and the saguaro cactus often live little different creatures. The secondary consumers rely on the producers. There we go. So this is a little tiny elf owl. Everybody say elf owl.
Elf owl.
Now show me a really cute face because the elf owls are really tiny and cute. The elf owl is a very cute little creature that lives inside of the prickly pear cactus. But just because he's tiny and cute doesn't mean that he doesn't also still eat the primary consumers. So all the animals in the ecosystem, whether they're big or small, can consume other creatures. Some things like the scorpions eat tiny creatures like ants and other insects, whereas the kit fox will eat some bigger creatures like the jackrabbit. And those are the secondary consumers that we could find in the desert. I'd like you to turn and talk to the people at your table. What are some of the secondary consumers that we have in Illinois? Some of the animals that eat other animals.
Actually, some of the day of my
I just thought
None of this process would be possible without the help of our decomposers. Say it with me. Decomposers. Decomposers are tiny creatures that help break down dead matter, and then it helps the cycle continue. So some of our decomposers, I'm going to first draw, look at this, it's a big dead cactus that fell over. Everybody show me what a dead cactus would look like. Now show me a living saguaro cactus. Now a dead one. And when you're a dead cactus, decomposers will be crawling all over you or growing on you like funguses. Everybody say fungus.
fungus.
So we have funguses that grow from our decomposing dead cactus. We have bacteria. Sometimes we call those germs. Everybody say bacteria.
Bacteria.
We also have tiny insects. Everybody say insects.
Insects.
Insects. And these decomposers help to keep the desert clean. They clean the desert and they break down dead matter. Say it with me. Decomposers.
Decomposers.
Break down.
Break down.
Dead matter.
Dead matter.
When that dead matter gets mixed in with the non-living or abiotic soil and sand, it gives nutrients. the nutrients spread out in the soil, show the nutrients spreading in the soil. And then it helps our producers to grow. So our producers, like our saguaro cactus, have really deep roots that go down underground and they spread out far. Show me your roots spreading far. And the roots are going to pull nutrients and water from the soil. Roots spread far. And that's an example of how we would connect the decomposers to the producers. All of these things connected together are called the food chain. Say it with me, food chain. The food chain is a web that's connected together. The dead cactus that we have growing here, let's see how it's connected. So we have the dead cactus helps the roots of the saguaro cactus. The roots of the saguaro cactus help the saguaro cactus and other plants grow. Who eats the plants in the saguaro cactus? Primary consumers, maybe like the jackrabbit. And then the jackrabbit is going to be eaten by the kid fox. And then after he has a really big meal, what's the kid fox gonna do? He's gonna poop. And where's that poop gonna go?
The sand.
It's going to go back into the soil and the sand and become a decomposer of the dead matter. And then the cycle will continue. This was a 10-2 conversation, so I want you to turn to the people at your table. Can you find another example of a food chain somewhere on this chart? Something else that relies on another category, like a consumer relying on a producer, or a producer relying on a decomposer? Turn and talk with the people at your table. Is there a team that would like to share out with us after they collaborated on their food chain?
You said the kangaroo rat ate the grass and then the owl ate the kangaroo rat.
Oh, okay. So the kangaroo rat was eating the grass that was growing from the soil, and then it was eaten by the owl. And then what does the owl do after it eats? Well, they poop, but owls also vomit, and they put out that nice little owl pellet. And where does the owl pellet go?
To the soil.
Back to the soil as a decomposer. That's another example of food chain. When different animals and plants rely on each other in a desert ecosystem or in any ecosystem, we call that fancy academic word interdependence. Say it with me. Interdependence. Interdependence is when one species needs support from another species in order to survive. Say it with me one more time. Interdependence. And we'll continue to find examples of interdependence as we continue to learn. Now I'd like you to go back to your picture file cards, and I would like you to find an example of interdependence in your pictures. And end scene.